that's who I was. But in Chicago, but the whole thing is, how did they all come to my store?
That's what I always like.
Well, these were my mentors because, like I told you, Record Road. One of the first black distributors of major label, the United Record Distributors, in 1831, South Michigan Avenue. Building still there.
Right here.
Ernie and George Linger. Al Bell gave them Stax records exclusively. Barry Gordy gave them Soul, because Motown had 4 labels. Motown, Tamla, Gordy, and Soul. He gave them, it was Soul and Tamla, exclusively to distribute. And see, so that's what these black guys are. Just being intense here, I'm a teenager, you remember Meigs Field, the airport, they used to be on lakefront?
X'd up,
Yeah. George Lane, Ernie's brother, was the first black man, the only black man ever had his own plane at that damn airport. See, so the influences, you feel what I'm saying? I mean, man, look, those type of influences, the images, when you're a teenager, you're right. If you can see it, you can be it. It was nothing, man, we'll get this, it's just like, oh, really? Across the street, 18th in Michigan, where Kroll's is, the restaurant, across the street where them condos are, them buildings, before that, there was an old mansion there. That's where Ebony Jet magazine was before they built the office building at 1820, South Michigan.
Wow.
Yeah, Johnson Products, Johnson Pub. The images in Chicago of black success, Black Wall Street. See, Black Wall Street was in every black community in America. It wasn't just Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, me as a kid growing up in the Bronx and Harlem and Queens, we've been shopping. You bought clothes from a store owned by a black man. White folks didn't know how we wanted to dress. Because when you look back at them old pictures, we was always dressed up. Hey, but that little dapper that, and I met him. I met him 2 years ago. But the whole thing is understanding when you came home from work, you went home, took a shower, and you put your good stuff up, and you strolled 7th Avenue. That's what folks did. Did after work. Oh yeah. When you look at all them old pictures, you don't see none of people dressed like we dress now at all. We dress like this shit all day long. And then young folks they laugh at the Commodores and all these other groups with them outfits they put on.
Tight stuff.
Well, guess what? If I'm working all week long, I'm going to see a show. I don't want to see somebody dressed like me. You got to give me a show. Them old theaters, how they used to be. Man, the glamour of it. See, y'all grew up when they put theaters in boxes and you went to see the movie. It was only one screen in the movies when we went. Downtown, where the Chicago theater is, across the street was the State Lake Theater. Where Walgreens is, right there, that alley, there was the Loop Theater. You go around the corner, on the corner of Dearborn and Randolph, you had the United Artists, you had the Woods Theater, right catty corners from each other. The Oriental, those weren't theaters for stage shows, those are movie theaters. And then when Dr. King got killed, assassinated, the riots hit, all of the businesses in the black communities were destroyed. So that's when niggas started going downtown. And we went downtown to see the black exploitation movies in the 70s. And then white folks were sick of these niggas all that time. Yeah, that's when they started converting them damn theaters. Yeah, because look, dude. Yeah. That's when they changed the game. They just cut them out because they didn't want us down there.
But it started from us tearing up our own neighborhood.
Well, it was a reaction, just like when George Floyd got killed. George Floyd was no Martin Luther King. But the bottom line is, same thing would happen in L.A. Rodney King, them cops got off. But guess what? You ride through L.A. now, you can't tell what happened. Because they rebuilt everything. Okay? After the police got off. I'll take you on the west side because I started George's Music Room in 1969, the year after. I would take you all over that goddamn west side and show you every vacant lot that's still vacant since the 1968 riots. Still vacant. The only area that was saved was Madison and Pulaski. See all them shops down there? You know why? There was an armory on Madison, just west of that viaduct. You know where Western Avenue is?
Yeah.
You come a little west, there was a huge ass armory, military armory.
So
the tanks and all that shit, they went down to Madison, Pulaski to protect them Jews' stores.
wow.
That's why they never burnt up Madison, Pulaski. So everything was screwed up in Lawndale. See Ogden Avenue? Look, that was the car dealerships all up and down Ogden. That's where all the car dealerships were.
That's crazy.
Roosevelt Road was the most commercial street on the west side of Chicago. Right now, the number one commercial street is Michigan Avenue, Gold Coast. The number 2 street, 26th Street. Mexican community. All the way from Halstead to Cicero's.
Right there.
Okay? And we had businesses like that. When I started George's, there were black businesses all around me. I was a youngster. I opened that store. Everybody thought it was my daddy's store. I was just turning like 19 or something. I looked like I was 16. Yeah. But just give you a sense of, what was. That's not there anymore. And, I pride myself. And when I started George's, and I was the only employee the first 3 years. Right? I had my first employee, then my second, and my third. This is getting into the 70s. Then I got to my 4th employee, and I wasn't shit. My management skills was zip. I could only manage 3 good. So then, I taught myself, well, all right, so what do? You just stay with 3, or you hire somebody that knows what you don't know. That's how I started teaching myself. That's how you grow. You got to recognize your own limitations. But you have to create a plan. People have, well, I'm going to go in business or what have you. And my first question is, well, who are you going to employ? Do you have a plan? You know how when you go to big corporations, they give you that operations manual? Boom, boom. So I don't care how small you are, you better have an operations manual. So you can have some structure. Yeah, but in the process, I got evicted twice. I went bankrupt once in that same block.
On Roosevelt?
Right now, I started at 3937. I went 3923, 3921. Then I wound up 3915. Big store, did the shit in the yard. That building used to be True Vine Baptist Church. Wow. They had a school upstairs.
Wow.
And you remember the boxer Marvin Hagler?
Yeah, good.
That was his grandfather's church. Pastor Hagler.
The history, man.
Ain't that something? Yeah. And so I was able to rebuild my life in the house of the Lord. And then upstairs, in the neighborhood helped me rebuild. The church had burnt up. I was next door, Mr. Lucas, a bunch of other stuff. It could be a novel to tell the story, but I wound up getting into that building. And literally the neighborhood helped me build that store. It was burnt out. A guy who was politically connected cut the city off of me, and I had dudes everybody wanted help from the pool room. Man, George, I can do plumbing, I can do this. They built the store for me. The pastor across the street, Pastor Clemens, yeah, he was a carpenter. He came and helped them. There was guys that came and built, because they had the school upstairs over the church, and they turned that into my apartment. Wow. And I lived up over the store in the 90s, because I got there in, it was 89. We opened up Christmas, just before Christmas of 89. And I was living upstairs.
That's amazing. Yeah. My son started producing in April.
Okay.
So his beats are kind of next level, so it sort of forced me to really put my full effort behind the project, and I wound up making my dream.
Makes sense. Well, this is where it comes from.
You know what I'm saying?
That's where it comes from. You imagine I had put the best on, getting them up. It took them to Gibson's on Rush Street. People at Gibson's knew me would have to have a table set up for me, and these kids from the hood didn't know what the They didn't know how to read a menu. Fast food mentality. But I exposed them to that. Yeah.
Man, we need more. I wish it was more survived back then. They had to throw that game back.
Yeah, well, you know.
It's hard on the west side.
Man, look.
I'm from 16th and Central Park, so.
Oh, shoot, you down here with elbows, barbecue, whatever.
I elbows every night.
Exactly. Look, and then the candy store.
I stay right next door there, bro.
His son works at the hospital. Kind of.
Yeah, the one that used to hoop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I got
He used to be married to Selena.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, I know that because then there's a record shop, the family. Oh shit, I can't remember the name. See, before I opened George's, I used to sell records wholesale out the trunk of my car, all over the west side.
Other people's records.
Every record store, see, they wouldn't, like, it would be Lee and Bob's Cleaners and records, Sonny's TV Repair and records.
Okay.
You know, and that's what it was. You know, there were no stores. I lived like the first black store on the west side that just, all I sold was music. But they were variety stores. You remember, on 16th and Pulaski. It'll pop in my head. But all of them, they had Odell's. Remember Odell's, the furniture store? Yeah, it was on Pulaski.
Nothing being on 16th and Pulaski except the corner store and the currency exchange.
Well, but all of that, like you said, the Central Park right there.
Yeah.
But oh no, yeah, Arthur. You remember? Well, the Central Park Theater might not have been there.
No,
you know, right there. It was the church when you were there, right there at Central Park in Roosevelt.
Yeah.
There was Arts and Sounds, a record store there. I mean,
it's
the record
church,
stores
I think,
and Ralph's Records, and Father and Son at Keeler.
All of them,
those were the stores before I opened George's. There was a black man on 17th in Michigan. His name was Jimmy Manette. He had a wholesale place, the one stop, like Barney's, you know. And I wound up getting a job with him. And we used to go to these stores and we stock our cars up. And go to stores, give me 2 Marvin Gaye's, give me 3 so the records were like 57 cents wholesale. And that's what we sell. I had my receipt book, and when they go to these stores, there'd be candy stores and shit with records. And that was back in the 60s, before I opened George. But that's how I learned what retail was. I mean, there was so much, just to give you a sense, because the Black Panthers, their headquarters, if you go to Madison and Western right now, I think it's a CVS or Walgreens on that northeast corner. That used to be a bunch of storefronts with second store businesses up there. There was a record store called Qualified Records and TV Repair. I used to service them. The Black Panthers were upstairs. And one time I left and I heard the raids, I heard the gunshots when Hanrahan, state's attorney, was raiding. This is before they killed him over on Adams, because he lived like 3 blocks from me.
Before they got Fred?
Yeah, Fred, yep. Yeah. Yeah. But there were businesses all up and down those streets, black-owned businesses.
That's crazy.
Yeah. See, so, you know.
We didn't grow up.
Oh, yeah, but see now.
Baby Sister, Mr. Douglas, Elbows.
Oh, Douglas, that's the one, Douglas, with him and his kids.
Yeah.
They had the records.
Yeah.
I sold them. That was me selling them goddamn records.
That's crazy.
Douglas TV and records.
Mr. Douglas,
yeah, Mr. Douglas. Yeah. Damn, I knew somebody knew that. I was trying to, but the family was good.
They all look alike, light-skinned family. All of them look alike.
High yellows on 16th Street. Yeah, Douglas, right there.
Mr. Douglas.
That's right. Holy crap. That's it. Yeah. So I remember
used
this.
to go there every day, all up and down, man.
Hey, man, look, 16th Street, there was so much activity there, but then the reason why I never had no trouble, never know Pierre, he was the chief. He was the chief over there. I'd always call him, well, see, in those days, that's why, what has happened, when Rahm Emanuel got elected, and I done challenged even Alderman, I said, do you remember the first major thing he did? And he looked at me and said, yeah, I said, no, do you remember what he did? And I said, first he hired McCarthy, the white cop from New York.
Yeah.
Maybe Chief?
From Brook, came from Brook.
And guess what he did?
What?
Locked up all the Chiefs.
Locked up all
That's
the Chiefs.
when
Don't I say that all the time?
No,
When
no,
they broke
look,
Yeah.
shit
see,
down.
this is when
You
all
do.
the shooting started.
All the shooting started.
From then to now.
Yeah.
Because what you got now is these on every corner.
Yeah.
See, because back in the day, every commander in the district knew the chief of the gangs. If you heard a kid or senior citizen,
Had to talk to
anything,
him.
oh no, the commander called that chief and said, hey, you got to get that mother up. Whoever did this shit. And they would do it because the chiefs control the gangs and they trained them. You don't hurt kids that are going to school. You don't hurt senior citizens, whatever.
And said that guy came from Brook.
Man, that Rom did it. He just took orders from the goddamn man. And they started locking up all other chiefs, and that's when it went. Now it's even worse. You got a gang on every goddamn corner.
Uncle John!
Okay, Paso.
Yo, baby.
Good to see you, man.
She put my ton on the bitch. Wow. Nigga, I'm spending it all. Nigga, we spending it all. Wow. Blew out that tenant tomorrow. I blew the rest from my dog. Wow. Boy with the rock in my hand. Walk to the day that I fall. Wow. Nigga, I'm getting it all. Nigga, we getting it all. I say. Wow. A nigga got blessed. Blessings on blessings on blessings on blessings. Wow. Thank God for them good nights. Mama, no worry, no stress. Nigga, we getting it all. Nigga, we getting it all. Clear wherever I'm good.
I can spend it just the way you need. Not evergreen. I can get it where we go. Working on the beat by his team. Let me proceed. Even though I've been outside, I be seeing niggas living on the nation. I be getting so professional. I know the fellas and the sisters that be real and not the ones that they be faking. Not the ones that they be hating. On the truth, I think I got all the difference is. Let them know just what the difference is between knowledge and self. Or not knowing who you are. Being able to take it back to the pyramids. It's a call of the righteous. Lock and low.
These are the biggest record store chains in the country. There's 9 members on the board. I was the first person to become a member on the board. 1992. I served 2 3-year terms on the board. And I'm still the first black person to ever win Retail of the Year award, beating out white folks.
Wow.
93 and 96. But the whole thing is,
From Roosevelt to Independence.
that's right. Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was a thing where
West.
But now, that came from the mentors I had.
That part.
See, I'll tell you, Michigan Avenue, from Roosevelt Road to 22nd Street. You can go on YouTube and pull up Record Row Chicago. There's a documentary that Public Broadcasting did some years ago, and Etta James narrates it. When I was 17, I was Etta James' driver in Chicago.
Wow.
Okay. Record Row. There were more record labels in that 10 blocks than any city in the world. The first label.
What year?
This was in the 50s, 60s, early 70s, before everything, is split up. The first label the Beatles were ever on in America was a black-owned label. On 14th in Michigan, 1429. The building's still there.
Wow.
BJ Records, Vivian and James. BEEJL. They were big before Motown. That was the biggest black record label in the country.
And they had the Beatles.
The Beatles was the first label, but I mean Curtis Mayfield, all of them recorded on BJ Records. Vivian and James, they were from Gary, Indiana.
Mike.
You will see all of this on Record Row.
I'm gonna watch
That thing is gonna have you fascinated.
I just wrote it down.
And see, and that's where I started. Well, I graduated Hershey in '64. I'm hanging out, and I meet this girl. We started dating. I was going to Luke Junior College, which is now Harold Washington College, and I was working on Montgomery Ward, the mail order house. And this girl I met, she had 1 more year at Hyde Park High School, and she worked at Chess Records as a receptionist, and she sang background. And so we started dating. I took her to the prom, the whole darn thing. And so that's how I wound up getting involved in the music, hanging at the studio with her.
And Chess Records.
That was Minnie Riperton.
Wow. They're your ex.
You know Maya Rudolph, the actress? You know Maya Rudolph, that's Minnie's daughter.
Right.
Maya has a brother named Mark. That's my son. I ain't gonna say that on camera, but I'm just letting you know. Yeah. That's how I wound up in the music business. Because of her just hanging around at the studio, and they gave me a job. My first job was cleaning up the studio. Then I started driving Etta James around locally. And me and Minnie were like the two kids at the studio. We were teenagers. You know, all of the clubs where the bands played and what have you. Then her manager, Billy Davis. Billy Davis started Motown with Barry Gordy. Billy was Anna, Barry Gordy's sister. That was her boyfriend. And that's how they started. Yeah, and then Leonard Phillips, you know, Cadillac Records, Beyonce. That was such a lie. There was so much stuff they didn't tell. But Etta James never messed with that white guy. Leonard Chess never did, but on any event. But these are the stories I was told. But Billy Davis is the one that took me on his wing. Then he put me on the road with Billy Stewart. I Do Love You, Sitting in the Park with him. That's when I really got my lesson in Cadillac Records. Because he had a Cadillac, me, his girlfriend. And the big old Cadillac. The band was in the station wagon like sardines pulling U-Haul. Because all artists had their own rhythm sections. And this is when the Regal in Chicago, the Apollo in New York, the Fox in Detroit, Uptown in Philly, you did 5 shows a day for 5 days straight. You sign in on the Apollo, you get in on Sunday, you sign in, the first show would be like 1 o'clock on a Monday. You did 5 shows a day up until Friday, so usually Saturday. This is why some of the other things, you know, we'll probably do some other stuff later, but like Michael Jackson, Michael never messed with no kids. I'm gonna tell you, you know what? He never had a chance to be a kid. I was at Chess when the family came and auditioned at Chess. Michael was 6 years old. He never had a chance. Have you ever heard them in any of their interviews talk about the schools they went to?
Childhood, yeah.
Have you ever, I mean, did they ever go to school?
No.
Did they ever go to high school?
No.
When you hear them talk, they don't sound like they went to. Because Joe, he was a brutal father, man. He worked at the steel mill. The first record label, Gordon Keith. He worked at the steel mill with Joe. And the label was called Steel Town Records. And the first record, I'm a Big Boy Now. Jackson 5. Dude, Michael did stories, and then I realized, because when I went to the Apollo and stuff years later, I mean, literally around the same time they were growing up, but Apollo's on 125th Street, backstage 126th Street. Across from backstage is a school, with a schoolyard. And now, mind you, the show started back in those days. You had matinees and all those people. Everybody was working, so people had days off. The place would be packed, but it wouldn't be crazy unless it's James Brown or something. But can you imagine? After you perform, you sit in the room. You 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. You're looking out the window. You see all these kids playing in the schoolyard.
And you can't go.
All right.
Every day.
Think about that. How did he have a childhood? That's why when he built that crazy place out there and had all, because he wanted to be a kid. He never was a kid. He saw it. He was the breadwinner for the family.
At 6.
Think about that. And these people are trying to crucify him behind that, and he's dead too. Bullcrap. When you've never been a kid, why you want to hurt kids? You always want to be one. You know, even when he changed his complexion and the hair and stuff, when the family left, I'm giving y'all some good stuff. When the family left and went to California, when they went to Motown, they stayed with Diana Ross. They stayed at her house. They didn't have a house. Remember Diana's big hair?
Yeah.
Where did Michael start growing?
Yeah. Start marrying that.
The first white woman that took him under the wing was Elizabeth Taylor. What complexion was she? That's when Michael started bleaching his skin. Psychological effect of not having the affection as a child.
Became it.
Alright, you just manufactured. And he turned himself into whatever he wanted to be. Because he was in charge. Because when he turned 18, the people at Epic, Columbia Record, Sony, said, come on. Because they were always scared of the father. And I'm going to show you the reason why. Have you ever heard any of the boys, even the girls, raise their voice? Have you ever heard them get loud, ever?
No.
And where does that come from? Home. Because don't you raise your voice for you. From Jackie all the way down to Michael, Tito, and all of them. They still got that Janet. Steel mill worker. Oh, hey, I run the house. That little bitty ass house they had in Gary with all the kids, even the mom. That's how brutal Joe was. And he manufactured those kids. Because again, I often say, you never hear them talk about school because they never went to school. And that's how
Friends and nothing.
hey, because of Jackson 5, remember the kids called the Osmonds?
That was their rival.
Oh, and that wasn't a rival. The white folks had to manufacture something to had them black kids on Ed Sullivan and we ain't got no white kids.
Yeah.
That's where the Osmonds come from. We've always been duplicated. Always. Oh yeah, I just want to give you something to sit back and say, I just think about it. Because it makes sense.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
Maybe we should just set up a session or something. I don't know, you want to refill on your cup?
No, I got enough in here.
I respect. Yeah. Who, me? I know how he do it. He so you got to stay around what's going on, you know, so you can keep your youth. You know what I'm saying? It's when you in the crib just chilling.
Well, you know, it's keeping a positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Frankly, I really don't hang with people my age. All they doing bitching about y'all. And I'm like, shit. Look, I look at y'all, I said, damn, I did that dumb shit too. So,